I've made my bed for you guys, so you better be grateful. Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today's title is obvious, so let's literally just jump right into it. I feel like we don't know a lot of things as we enter the adult sphere of the world, navigating through university and then also having to do all this adulting stuff. Some people have done way more adulting than I have by the age of 20, and I thought, because I'll be turning 21 soon, that I would talk about all the things that I wish I knew before I turned 20.
Whatever you say, boomer. Okay, boomer.
Or, you know, even before I entered second year of university. Let's talk about flats and homes. This is kind of embarrassing. Like, I feel like we should know these things, but you know what? Let's just be completely candid and talk about everything honestly. I did not know what a deposit was before I had to pay for it. A deposit is an amount of money that is usually between half to 2 times the amount of your monthly rent. It is the money that you pay in case of any damages to the property or anything like that. For example, last year when I was in another flat before I moved to the place I am now, I had to pay 1.5 or 1.75 of the amount of rent that I had to pay monthly, because that's just what the landlord wanted, and also I had my cat there, so they wanted stuff there in case of any damages. I only paid 110 in cleaning carpets and all that stuff. All in all, I took care of the place really well and I didn't have to pay that much. These letting agencies and landlords will literally take you for every single penny that you have. They want that money. Now this money, when you send it in, it goes to a third party. So for us here in Scotland, it goes to Safety Deposit Scotland, but I'm sure like around the world it's a similar type of situation where it's not handled by the letting agency or the landlord, depending on who you're going with, but it's handled by an outside third party person, so there's no like bias. The money is kept safe, so it's not spent, it's just kept somewhere else, and then you get your money back at the end of it. Once you've moved out. Because of COVID, it took over 3 weeks for me to get my deposit back, but these things do happen. Landlords and letting agencies. Now, I've been very fortunate, I think, that I've had pretty decent landlords, especially my new landlady's lovely. I think it just takes a lot of actually standing up for yourself, because I feel like a lot of the times they won't take students seriously because of how dreadful students have left flats that they've lived in. So if you're that type of person that you're very clean, you're very conscious of the space around you, and you like to take care of the place that you're living in, you're generally a tidy person, don't be afraid to ask for things. When I arrived, and I will actually include some photos in this just so you can see how awful the state of my washing machine was. Mold and dirt and just absolute disgustingness in it. It was just not a washing machine that I could use to clean clothes. I wouldn't throw any of my clothes in there because it would just make them dirtier. So it took them a month. It took my landlord a month to get me a new washing machine. I just think that's absolutely insane, and having to deal with all this stuff. My doorbell did not work for the entire year that I was there. I was there for a full academic year and my doorbell was not fixed. I had to leave the door open for friends who were coming by, be like, yeah, the doorbell's been broken, it's not gonna be fixed. Now I've learned that I can push for those things. So if the fan in the bathroom is broken, which it is, if the doorbell is broken, which it is, I will ask for those things to be replaced. It's your right as a tenant to say that. Another thing that I didn't know about living in flats is, in Scotland at least, the law is that the tenants have a right to give 28 days notice before leaving, and they can just leave. Like, they don't need any valid reason or anything. But in order to evict someone, you need quite a lot of different criterias and stuff. So I think that's very beneficial for tenants who, especially like uni students who you may not know if you want to move out. Like, COVID situation was really a lot. That law really benefits a lot of tenants in that sense.
And that's on period. So if you do me dirty, bye, deuces. you gotta go.
I've actually touched on this before in previous videos, but living alone versus living with people, so dealing with things like loneliness. Loneliness was a big thing for me because I lived alone last year. I mean, I had Sky, but it wasn't really the same as living with a person, and I'm a very extroverted person, so I really can't be on my own for too long. So that was quite hard on me, and I would say if you are living alone, please do reach out to people. Don't be shy, because you are living on your own, and we don't want that to turn into something quite negative and really impact you. In terms of living with other people, there have been so many occasions that friends have come to me and told me how much they hate their flatmates and how messy someone is, or how like someone is about, you know, cleaning up the tiniest little thing. So personalities differ. There needs to be a balance. Neat freaks will always get on well together, but if you put all the messy people living together, it's just going to be so unpleasant. I've just heard a lot of horror stories. It's best to know the person that you're going to get a flat with and live with. And I know that that's really difficult because a lot of times you have to decide who you're living with by December time, which is almost zero time to decide who is going to be a good person to live with. I would also say there's so many flats that come out for viewings and stuff over summer. If you don't get a flat to begin with, there's always a chance that you could later. I know there's a lot of pressure for uni students to get flats, but I found a place. So if I can find a place in like June, then you can too. Now, here's the big one. Those of you who have been here for a while will know of my beef with Scottish Power. It still hasn't been resolved, you guys. Like, it's still an ongoing issue, and I've left that flat. It's been over a month since I left, and they still haven't told me how much money I owe. They still haven't figured it out. So I would say please get on top of that the moment you move in. Unless yours is like a top-up meter, be checking your meters, keep records of them, take photos, keep them on your phone, because I am so glad that I kept mine in like proper records. When they've asked me for the billionth time to send them an email of all my meter readings, I have all of those in my camera roll that I can just send. Moving on, registering to vote. So I registered to vote for the first time this year. Oh, the sun. Can it not? Now, registering to vote, I don't think it matters whether you're in the UK or in the US, because I'm a US citizen. It's really good for your credit score. I didn't even know what a credit score was up until a few weeks ago, but it's really important so that lenders know later on that they can trust you, because when you register to vote, it verifies your identity, your address. It just verifies you as a human being in the voting process and all that stuff. A lot of people have this argument that, oh, you know, my vote out of millions and millions of people won't have any kind of impact, so why should I vote? Why should I register to vote? Well, I mean, I said because of it helps you seem more trustworthy to lenders in the future, especially when you want to, I don't know, get a mortgage, apply for a credit card, buy a house, these kind of things. But I think it's only when you don't register that your vote actually doesn't matter. So I found a quote that I will link the 2 articles that I read below in the description box. Your vote may not directly elect the president, so this is the US case, but if your vote joins enough others in your district, it will matter when it comes to electoral results. So in the end, voting and registering to vote is really important, and I think everyone should register to vote already if you haven't done so.
They should just vote because it matters, you know? Don't you think?
We're all in this together.
Let's talk about academic pressure. Probably the most stressful year of my life was year 13 or senior year. I think the reason it was so stressful was because I really wanted to come to this university. It was my dream university, and I worked so hard and it meant so much to me getting in here. But then how do you react when you get into the place that you've wanted to go to, when you've worked so consistently hard throughout your entire schooling, and now you're at university where you've got new things going on, you're an independent person, and you're having to juggle all different sorts of things. For me, I felt a lot of pressure to do well. When I wouldn't do well, I would be really upset about it. Like, I would get 16s, 15s in essays, and I would be distraught, like upset, because I'd gotten 15s and 16s out of 20 just because it wasn't a first. And I think a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves, especially first and second year are your learning years. They are years where you try different things in terms of your essay writing or your approaches to studying. Things like that may change based off of the different perspectives that you get when you come to university. For me, it's kind of very trial and error, and it's okay if you mess up and you don't do well, or you do well.
You just said doo-doo.
You get the results that you want, and then you know that you're along the right path. One thing I realized that even now, going into honors, like these 2 years that are coming up directly affect my degree. For me personally, I've just taken a new approach to learning and to grades, and I know that when I'm having a good time, when I'm enjoying what I'm learning, when I'm really immersed in the literature and just spending my time enjoying what I'm doing, then I always tend to do better. This is not to say I'm like gonna be full of myself and go, oh, like I've studied so much, I know all of this. Not that at all, but just to say that when I do have a good time, and especially around exam season, we all get really stressed. It's normal to be stressed about exams or essays, but not to put too much pressure on yourself to the point where you feel like you're having an anxiety attack, or you equate your self-worth with a number on a piece of paper or on your laptop screen. It's not worth it, and you shouldn't feel like your worth and your self-esteem comes from your grades. This is actually something that happened this semester. Because of COVID, my exams were cancelled. We still had a lot of work to do, even though we didn't do the exams. My 2 pieces of coursework were the determining factor of what I had studied for a whole semester, whereas I feel like I learned so much in the semester, but my grades do not reflect the amount of content that I covered and the intensity and depth that I went into each area that I was exploring. That's one of the things that I've now realized, is that I will probably always have a deeper knowledge than what shows up on my report. The only thing is that you accept what's happened and you learn from tips that you've been given by your tutors, and for me that means practicing writing essays. Fourth thing is writing a CV and applying for internships. So I'm gonna firstly preface this by saying I am in a very privileged position when I say that I have never until now needed to write a professional CV in order to apply for an internship or a job or anything like that. I would also like to say I couldn't work as a student when I was growing up in Doha, because in Doha you can't work legally if you are a student, and you can't work unless you are sponsored. It just wasn't a possibility for me. And then at university, my parents really wanted me to focus on studying, and there was really no reason for me to get a job. But then the idea of internships and how good they are for your future really appealed to me, especially for me, as I want to be a writer. I should have experience in the publishing industry, and I should be able to know what the processes are for getting a book published, you know, even applying to have your book seen and read, what happens behind the scenes. That's what I want to be doing next summer, fingers crossed. I am currently in the process of writing a CV, and my good friend Mimi just told me this recently, but she went to the career advisors. If you go to them, there's a 5-minute appointment that you can make. They will view your CV that you have drafted, and they will tell you what is good, what needs removing, what you need to add. They really help you out with what you're doing, and I'm sure that's applicable across all the universities around the UK and around the US, of course, as well. The things you don't know. Another thing I realized was it's never too late to pursue your passion. By now I've changed my degree twice. So I came in with history, changed it to English and Middle Eastern Studies, and now I am with English. As you experience uni, especially in your first 2 years when things are a bit not that certain, at least for us here in St. Andrews, I think there's always this learning curve, and you experiencing different things will change your approach to what you want to do in the future. And for me, it it completely changed my perspective on what I want to do. It led me towards kind of what I've already known that I wanted to do, but it reaffirmed the things that I knew about myself, the future that I want to head down on. So yeah, this was today's video. I hope this video was helpful, because I wish someone had talked to me about electrical stuff, like gas companies, electrical companies. Rent is pretty standard, but just in general, things that you can and can't do as a tenant, life at university, just different things. This sun is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new, welcome, and if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, send it to someone who you think needs to know this information before they enter second year or at any point. Thank you, love you all, sending you all lots of love, and see you next week.